Welcome to the live stream from Nordic Business Forum 2016 in Helsinki. The live stream is going to switch over to the main stage in about 15 minutes, but before that we have a small treat for you guys. My name is Lotta Backlund. I'll be having a short talk with two very interesting people. With me here at the Maikkari live stream stage are Mikko from Roscher, the law firm, and Petri Rajaniemi of Ponder Knobs. And we're going to talk about continuous development. Now, Mikko, you represent the law firm Roscher. You're turning 80 this year. Now, I don't think even a law firm, which kind of sounds a bit, like a boring place, not a very developmental place to work. If you existed for 80 years, that means you've probably put a lot of effort into development. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about being an attorney is that you basically live to serve the market as it currently is. So you cannot kind of say, I'm a lawyer, I only do law, and law exists at any given point in time. What we actually do is we try to look 12, 18, 24 months forward and understand what our clients need, and then develop our skills and offering to what that market will at that time need. So you really need to renew all the time, and I guess that's what keeps us fresh. And if you look at our partnership, we have out of 43 partners, 29 are 45 and under. So it's 80 years old, but the team is pretty young.
Petri, you're one of Finland's most popular public speakers, and you do a lot of business development consulting for small and medium-sized enterprises. You talk about change and continuous development all the time. What do you think about what Mikko just said?
Well, I was happy to hear such a big and prestigious company as Roscher is widely known, thinks ahead, way ahead, and that's it's really quite classical reactive, proactive kind of thinking.
Well, continuous development seems like a value that everybody in the company needs to share. But how? I mean, it's not enough that top management, says we have to continuously develop. So, what are the tools that you guys use to make everyone kind of feel that?
I think it's interesting that we are at the Nordic Business Forum, and obviously our firm is a business as well, but being an attorney is very much a profession, and it's very much a personal thing. So you want to kind of drive yourself and your skills and your ability to be better at what you do all the time. And it sort of really comes from within, and therefore one of the biggest tools that we invest in is self-leadership. So we have a very good network of external service providers who coach our people. Like I've been in a coaching group for 6 years, and we start the self-leadership with international experts already at around 2-3 years of experience. So we invest into a lot of people's capability to lead themselves, because you can't, kind of like you said, top-down forcing people to develop is perhaps not the best way.
What do you think?
Well, first of all, if I may correct a little, I do most of my work with medium-sized and large companies, and when I do my work, one of my main products that I sell are questions, and the idea is that continuous development comes from continuous questioning of self, which means the idea that especially in a large, well-functioning company, there's always the risk of being content, and therefore questions come in handy on that.
But people in general hate change, right? It's not just like personally, but also in business. How do you?
Well, organizations love change, but people tend to hate it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you make the people maybe not love change, but how do you make them not hate change?
Well, the key element is that you have to be able to show the rewards of change on a personal level. You can't just say it from an organizational level that as an organization it's important for us to change, but also for you as an individual, it's beneficial to you to change, and it cannot be enforced. It has to be born from within.
Very much comes from sort of the operating environment, if you want to call it that. I mean, we do whatever clients want us to do. So it's not like a predictable pipeline of us assembling product or us offering something that we want to sell. So the change is kind of very natural in the way we work. It's just what drives the need for us at all. If there was no change, then who would need attorneys who think ahead? Another thing for us clearly is that we are now operating in Finland and Sweden, and in Sweden we've only been for 10 years, and there is a significant, let's say, benefit from having a different maturity in different parts of the organization. So you don't, not everything is sort of 80, but we have the 10-year-old kind of a kid there. Really exciting.
So you talked about this mentoring program. What other concrete tools could you give as tips to companies that want to implement continuous development as a value?
Well, if I was to continue on my previous point, I'm not quite sure if it was last year or the year before that at the Nordic Business Forum we had Jim Collins talking about
2014.
Yeah, and about the factors that drive great companies into ruins, and the most important factor was arrogance. And I asked in the Q&A, I asked Jim Collins that if arrogance is the single most important factor that ruins great companies, how come it's not anyone's responsibility? I mean, where's the chief humility officer in any great company? I mean, if people really have to keep a close eye on that. And so it has to be made someone's responsibility to ask those tedious, ugly questions and questioning the fact that are we actually so great as we say we are?
I think that's an excellent point on avoiding arrogance. Like my coach told me 7 years ago in our first meeting that one of the critical skills is appreciation, that you have to show people that you appreciate them and their efforts, and that's probably the best way you can motivate them to continue to develop, because somebody appreciates the effort. And if we think about sort of the whole how artificial intelligence is taking over, and Risto Siilasmaa said in the Nokia AGM in the summer that 90% of lawyers' work can be done by computers. Well, I hope he meant volume and not value, but still I think the main point there is the human-to-human interface. I mean, that communication and all of that, that's kind of how we need to build the future skill set. So it's not whether you know the thing that you're an expert in, it's how you communicate the value that people can derive from your expertise, like you guiding people to change and all of that. Tremendously valuable.
So would you say continuous development, is that a value or is it a strategy?
Wow. To me it's a strategy. I think values are, like our values are, professionalism, client orientation, teamwork, pioneering. That is more like values to me. Continuous development is basically a necessity. It's a tactic. It's an everyday thing. It's not
exactly. It's an everyday kind of thing. I mean, it's a way to be. It's neither. It's just a way to be. It's like if you have the necessary curiosity, you have the necessary hunger, then what comes naturally is your will to develop continuously.
And obviously, you have different types of people in different environments, and it's not like it depends on what you do, how much you need to continuously develop, and in what areas, and how you kind of build what you want to do. Some people develop in their free time and not in work. They artists or writers or sports, whatever. So it's kind of depends on where you find your own inner need to develop. For me, it's what I do at work. For somebody else, it might be what they do on the weekends.
What is it for you, Petri?
What I find most inspiring in life is learning. To continuous development for me means to see, means to read, means to hear, mostly people. That's where I do most of my learning, from other people.
Well, these are very concrete things that you do, but are these the things that you would, for instance, when you consult a company, is that what you would say to the managers? Like, just make your staff read and learn and go play music,
Well, the most important thing that I preach is that you have to be interested in the people, and I don't mean the surface. I mean, people present to you different kinds of surfaces, but you really have to be interested is what's behind that. How do you see the real person behind the, shall we say, the business environment? And through acknowledging the fact that there is a person behind the facade, then you may reach the connection that you were referring to earlier as the main thing in communicating person to person.
In particular, in the field we're in, we get a lot of people straight out of law school, and I guess a big tool for them is to help them to really to understand the context. I mean, not all things are the same, so the context is important in terms of finding motivation, and it's also important to the ability to get behind the facade and to what drives people, because they need to understand where they are and what they're doing and what's our target, because we want them in our team. And we have brilliant people who aren't necessarily driven by what I'm driven, and therefore it's, they're going to be great at what they do, but they're not going to be great at this, because we don't share the same passions.
Aren't you afraid when you want people to develop, that often means that they have to move on to excel in other places? Aren't you afraid you're going to lose really good staff?
It's in everyone's interest. I mean, if the person is working for you and they hit the wall in development, isn't it in your interest? And it's definitely in their interest to keep growing somewhere else. I mean, would you really want them to work for you?
It's the classical sort of, you have all these slogans that always circle around the social media, and it's the classic, what if we invest in people and they leave? Well, what if we don't and they stay? So it's a cliche joke, but I really believe in that, and it definitely makes sense. And I don't think it's anything that we lose. To the contrary, I mean, we get great ambassadors, people who really value us and our firm,
and still
networks, all that.
And still they taught the lessons while they were there. I mean, the organization learns all the time, whoever is there, and the way they interact.
So if you guys have some tips for people, like on the personal level, what should they take away from this discussion to become like more development-oriented people?
I think you should be quite open to where you want to develop. I mean, the human spectrum is quite wide, and you shouldn't be stressed about, well, where do I want to develop, but rather organically try to see what it is that you actually want to be good at, and then do that. Then those skills and that attitude will kind of reflect on other things as well eventually. You can't just develop in one thing. Once you kind of learn that, then you'll keep doing it.
But that takes a lot of courage. Like, you would have to be very brave to do that.
But start small, learn to play volleyball or be better at chess or, paint cats. I don't know.
So the basic idea, don't be an arrogant a-hole. It kills you and your company. That's the basic idea.
That's very good. What are you guys looking most forward to at Nordic Business Forum this year?
The people. Believe it or not, believe it or not, I'm mostly interested in the people who are attending the event.
So you're not going to be inside. You're going to be hanging out at the cocktail bar.
Well, they're still in the seminar hall, but the excellent world-class speakers are a nice bonus.
Mikko, what about you?
I really kind of look forward to what comes after the event. I mean, when you've spent time with people, you've talked about things, you listen to all of that, it kind of kicks something in your brain, and you start thinking. And that's kind of the next maybe 3 or 4 days are going to be the greatest, because you have the weekend after this, and you actually can kind of figure out what did I get out of this and what do I want to do next. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
How often have you been here, Mikko?
This is my 3rd time.
Yeah, so you're familiar with the hangover on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we
the
all
return
have.
to realism.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we all have to live with on Monday. But that's on Monday.
Thank you, Mikko, Petri, Rajaniemi. We're all going to be looking forward to a lovely hangover, not just apparently on Saturday and Sunday, but on Monday even. We're going to switch over to the live stream to the main hall, but thank you for being with us, and I hope you stay with us. Bye.